Well, let's dive into it. So I sent you over this deck. We'll just run through it, and feel free to interrupt me with any questions that you have. I want to make sure I'm answering everything for you and providing clarity for, like Pinterest capabilities going forward. So our mission for, Pinterest platform is to bring everyone the inspiration to create a life that they love. So, I mean, for example, me being a user and recently getting into road biking, Pinterest was the number one place that I went to create those boards and ultimately find products and like bike builds that I liked, that I personally took into consideration and to making that purchase in the end result to go out there and buy a bike and change the look and parts. So still currently doing that, and the Pinterest platform has made a huge impact in what my tastes are for bikes, what kind of riding style I like, what look I like, and ultimately some brands that I've found on the platform as well. So from small to big things, which we'll talk about in the next few slides, it's primarily an inspirational platform. A lot of people qualify it as a social media, which makes sense, but in essence, in itself, it's more focused on the user. You don't go to Pinterest to see what your friends are doing. So everything for the buying journey, right in the beginning stage of figuring out what you want to put together for your ideas, what's the bread and butter is at for Pinterest. Well, 10 stats everyone needs to know. I'll just touch on my 3 favorite ones here. So down here at number 9, male signups have increased by 50% in the last year and currently reach 32% of U.S. men. In the earlier stages, predominantly it was female-based users, but as we've increased year over year, that number consistently changes and increases with our signups to gain more of a male user base, and ultimately will eventually reach a 50-50 mix. Pinners have a 40% bigger baskets and faster conversions than other platforms. And to speak to this, our average pinners yearly household income is around 100K a year. And then in translation, we typically see around a $70 purchase basket overall holistically on the platform for purchases being made. And then to just touch back on that, inspirational platform, 98% of pinners report trying new things they find on the platform. And then compared to the average 71% across other social medias, we like to have this saying, stop interrupting and start inspiring. So even when it comes to the paid media side of like running promotional pins, AKA ads on the platform, keeping that native look to it, to where even when they see an ad, it pertains to their interests and they find a good positive experience even with interacting with those ads. Pinterest is a catalog of ideas, a utility for big moments in the everyday life. So on the left side, things like becoming a parent, planning for those parenting, big moves. There's a big step in life, a lot of consideration, a lot of things to change and alter in your life. They're planning for those moments on Pinterest. Even furthermore, buying a house and also traveling ideas. So I reckon even this time right now, there's a lot of eyes on the platform with the auction pressure being low, but even more so, people pulling back their spend and not traveling and just either holding on to that money or allocating it somewhere else. They're still dreaming about when those restrictions can be lifted and ultimately take those travel trips that they couldn't take this year down the road further. So planning is still happening in those select areas. And then on the 53%, more likely to plan for everyday moments such as fashion, drinks, recipes, all huge categories I touched on there. They're planning for those things on the platform as well. Just a few more stats. Pinterest is growing year over year, 40% year over year growth, 50+% increase in men, 2 billion monthly searches on Pinterest. And one of the other interesting stats is 97% of the searches on our platform are unbranded. So they're not going to search for Nike shoes. They're searching for running styles, athletic lifestyle outfits, things are in that those types of phrases without a brand included on them. For the entire slide myself, this is the most useful, my favorite slide as well. Reason being is these are the biggest moments that matter on Pinterest. It also allows you to know when to have those conversations on when we should be ramping up campaigns, when we should be in the talks for planning for them, and ultimately how to get the most of the pinners planning phases using the platform and seeing the best success for those campaigns in regards to launching them out at good times and, like I mentioned, facilitating this conversation. So as of right now, for example, going into May, all these bottom categories towards the bottom are starting to happen: back to school, college, Black Friday, so on and so forth. Promoted pins, jumping into how things are looked and delivered. Standard pins, we like to follow that creative best practices and making sure that the standard pins are native to the platform to ensure a positive experience. So for instance, Lego, our past partner here, beautiful imagery, very colorful, eye-popping, catches the idea, and they're honing in on happy birthdays, which is applicable throughout the entire year, which is a good play from them. You can see the visit button down here, so on and so forth. That's the very standard, primarily promoted pin. And then we have the rich pins on the other take of that. So essentially just the imagery above and below the fold. You can include more information below the fold. In this case, it's a recipe. So instead of having to go through the pin, they could save the pin, and it'll be included with their profile, and they can come back and reference this recipe, and then get more exposure to the brand in that way if you want to take that approach. We also have the capabilities to promote app installs. So beautiful layout of the user interface here for the app itself with the branding of the app store here, and then the call to action to kind of install and take you to the app store to get that conversion point made. And then the carousel pins. So Instagram has this capability, but we saw it was a great fit on our platform as well. So as you can see here, the small little dots within this image here, you can slide left and right. And then one thing to note is we can send people to different landing pages within the website for each one of those images. On the video pin side, so we have our standard pin here, and it's the same size as a static pin. However, it's going to be playing a short video here. So in this case, it's Smile Direct Club. You can see the duration, and this woman is going to be demonstrating how to use their product. And then for the next two over, the only difference is for these two is the size. So this is a 1x1, 16x9. And these are called the max width video pins. Reason being they're called max width is because they only show on the mobile devices. Majority of our users, about 85%, are on Pinterest using their phone. And so this is why we kind of rolled out the max width video pins to take majority of the screen and catch more of that attention. So it would have a great interaction and attention rate there. Jumping into targeting and audiences, including bidding on Pinterest. So two areas we can focus on with the promoted pins. It's going to be home feed and the search feed. So home feed, anything and everything you've shown interest in on Pinterest, whether you're searching for travels, fashion, drinks, and recipes, all of it will be tailored in your browsing feed. So you're not looking for anything in particular, just overall checking all your interests. You can target the home feed. And then on a more granular note, this person's searching for Puerto Rico travel. And so anything and everything and pertaining to Puerto Rico, top 10 places, travel guide and packing, some resorts promoting that. So we're going to target those keyword searches and put them on the search side as well. Targeting and audiences on Pinterest. It's coming down to your basic targeting: location, zip code, device, language, gender, and age. And then we'll layer in those interests and keywords. So interests, they've searched up something in the past. So we'll put that audience in that bucket. We can target those from parenting to schooling lessons. We have a list of interests we can recommend and that we'll put in and kind of trim off the fat there and see which ones are doing good and which ones are excellent as the campaign goes on, and then layer on some keywords for that search side. They're searching for X, Y, and Z. Even more of the capabilities that we've rolled out with our development team, we can incorporate a CRM list, so an email list, engagement retargeting, visitor retargeting, and our Actalike audience. We'll talk a little bit more further down the presentation. Auction bid types. So CPM based on the upper funnel, the awareness type campaigns, and it's going to be bidding on impressions. Mid funnel, getting traffic to your website, is going to be based on a CPC, cost per click, and then the lower funnel to bid to hit those CPA target or a ROAS target will be run on the OCPM. So we can take the full funnel strategy and get in that top funnel, the middle funnel, and then the bottom funnel to optimize towards those conversion points with this type of campaign here, so on and so forth. And then with videos, we can run video campaigns and kind of help that initiative for the upper funnel and gaining that consideration and pushing people down. One of the new things that we rolled out this year is called a shopping campaign. And how essentially this works is it's the same thing as our conversion campaign right here. However, we call it the shopping campaign because it allows the algorithm to dynamically bid with multiple SKU numbers. So you have a client with over 25 items to even 100,000 we've seen. We recommend the shopping campaign. And then how the second price auction works, your pin will bid on that space. The competitor's pin will bid on that same space. And then we'll only pay 1 penny higher than the second bid for that spot. So jumping into a further deeper dive on the capabilities for audiences from the previous slide. So we have the customer list targeting. Early results have seen a 20 to 30% lower CPA compared to interest in keyword targeting alone. So anytime we can get a CRM list to incorporate, we definitely recommend those. We can even retarget those lists. Somebody goes make a purchase, they put in their email. We can retarget past buyers from 3 months, 6 months ago, and go on and kind of work out those strategies with my AM and what we feel is going to be best with the circumstances provided. Site visitor retargeting. Of course, they go to the website, check you out. In that consideration phase, and we want to push them down the lower funnel, we can retarget those. Early results have shown a 3 times increase in click-through rates. So keep in mind, we can also retarget people going to the App Store for those app install type campaigns. That's also a capability. And then engagement retargeting. So things like save, favorites, shares, even just simply clicking on a pin, like opening it up, and then they keep scrolling. They don't do any of these actions over on this side. In this example, we could still retarget those because it showed that they clicked on it. They didn't necessarily go to the website, but they opened up the pin to get a little deeper of an insight for it. But we can retarget those. Even furthermore, if they watch more than 50% of the video, we can retarget that as well. And so engagement retargeting is definitely a must on that one, and it works really well. And then the Actalike targeting. Kind of a little bit different from Facebook. So Facebook uses a lookalike audience just because they have more data on the user itself. We have data on our pinners and what their interests are and what they're searching for. So 2 to 3 times increase in reach and 40 to 60% increase in click-throughs. And based on what this is based on the behavior that our algorithm has collected from the past users that have made the conversion point. So let's say you get 20 people go and make that purchase on the website. It will look at the behavior that it exhibited up until that point, take it into consideration, and we can scale this forward or backwards from a broader to narrow audiences and find audiences that have exhibited the same behavior from the people who have already made a purchase. And so those recommendations will be, drawn out for you from my AM Austin. And so we can broaden that up to, a wider range or narrow it down to a more narrow of an audience that shows even more similar behavior from the data we've collected. And that concludes the presentation in itself. Now there's a few more things that we rolled out that's not in this slide, like automatic bidding. So you can put a bid cap on the campaigns. However, our development team has released an automatic bidding where you just let the algorithm do the bids for the spots for your pins to be shown. And we've seen really great results. And it ultimately, in essence, allows your pins to be more competitive in the auction for the spaces it's going to bid for to get in front of the pinners and your audience that we've designated for the campaign. And so I can send you over that one sheeter for more information on that. Another thing that we've released is our collections pin, and that's a new pin format. I also have a one sheeter on that. We're waiting on a new, just updated deck slide. I know it's not included in there, but I can get that information over to you. And so those are fairly recently new, but I still have the information sent over to you on that. I want to pass back the time a little bit to you and see if there's any questions that I can provide clarity to. Anything you want to bounce off me last minute or you were holding on to?
Yeah. No, all that makes sense. And so I guess I'd just be interested. I saw that you sent over some of those case studies with the travel clients. What do you guys see working right now from an advertising perspective? Like, what's the most effective type of Pinterest ads for generating leads and sales right now that you guys see?
So that's a great question. I know we do have an area to go through and check out, what we've seen creative best practices for other verticals, which I can go through and take a deeper dive on that. However, that question is kind of going to depend on, what budget and what kind of what budget they're going to use for the campaign. So we can run a conversion campaign with a budget, depending on what CPA you're getting. So if it's like going to cost $30 for one lead for that acquisition to happen, we want to run a 5 to 10 times more daily budget in relation to what the CPA target is. So that way the algorithm can dynamically bid and find what's working and what isn't, and it has enough money to spend and collect that data, figure out, and then optimize towards making those leads happen. So depending on what the budget is, we would recommend doing a conversion campaign to generate those leads. And then, like I mentioned, take it on that full funnel strategy. Now, if that budget isn't available, we would go for kind of a lower end from the CPC, so like a traffic campaign, and mix in some retargeting in there to get those leads generated as well, and then see some success there and kind of scale from there. When it comes to creative, ultimately, as long as we're following creative best practices, which I don't know if I sent that over to you, but I'm taking notes if I haven't. I will provide that for you, including the 2 new products that I mentioned earlier. As long as we're following creative best practices, there's not really a major issue on that one. However, I'm sure I can find some resources for travel and see what other clients have done from those case studies. And I know that we have a creative gallery that gets uploaded with displaying what other verticals have done and that they've seen success to. So, things like call to action, making sure those static pins are native, and quote unquote Pinteresty. I say that on time because when I was, getting started on the job, they said that a lot. And essentially what that means is it's native and it has a positive experience with our pinners. So, there's a lot of variations when it comes to that question. It's a great question. But following creative best practices, we can look over what other verticals have done. And ultimately, when you have developed that creative, bounce that off of us. We'll take a look over it, me and Austin, give you the green light, say looks great. Let's try that out. Obviously, some A and B testing is also beneficial. We can see, hey, the red button's doing better than the green. Simple, small stuff like that, which I'm sure you're familiar with as well.